we can actually take a look at these leads and follow up on them, follow up on the ones that we know law enforcement has not followed up on.
We're focusing on finding Caylee. I will not come to you and tell you anything but that unless I have definitive proof.
Are you looking for a live Caylee or dead Caylee?
So we're looking for Caylee, Cindy, because we don't know where Caylee is.
I'm Jane Velez Mitchell in for Nancy Grace. Yes, yes, and yes again. That's what the judge said repeatedly today to Casey Anthony's lawyers, granting them most of what they asked for in terms of access to crucial evidence. Prosecutors objected furiously to no avail. That as the clock ticks down to a reported secret grand jury hearing on Tuesday that could result in murder or manslaughter charges being handed down against the missing Tot's mother. Is she prepared for the worst? That's what her lawyer says he is trying to prepare her for. Now, somebody who did show up in court today, our dear friend Kobe, also known as Dr. Lawrence Kobylinski, who is a forensic scientist out of John Jay College of Criminal Justice and a consultant to Casey Anthony's defense team. Kobe, hi. You actually testified over the phone. Tell us the significance of all the evidence the judge now says has to go to the defense. What does it do for the defense?
Well, we all know, I've said all along, this is a very challenging case for the defense. Obviously, whenever you have scientific analysis of physical evidence, it's going to dramatically impact on jurors. So it's important to me that whatever testing is done, whatever scientific testing of evidence is done, really needs to be reliable and accurate. And, you know, one way to do that is to have redundancy in the testing. That is to have independent testing by the defense. And this motion that I testified about involved the preservation of any forensic evidence. We're talking about any kind of DNA evidence. The hair, for example, is one. And we're concerned about quality and quantity. And, you know, I think the quality is less of an issue because it's clear that, you know, crime labs have learned how to preserve evidence and not let it degrade. But if there is limited quantity, as there is in this case, we want to make sure that there's a level playing field, that the results are accurate, and that the defense at least has a shot at doing an independent test.
Kobe, why do I sense a garbage in, garbage out defense? It seems like that's what always happens, and it's going to happen again, and we'll have to see if I'm psychic or not. Let's bring in the lawyers, Joey Jackson and Midwin Charles, two noted defense attorneys. I want to ask you guys, let's start with Midwin. Was the judge right? I mean, yes to access to forensic tests on air, hair, and chloroform for the defense. Yes to access to Casey's vehicle, the computer, the cell phone, the information about somebody thought they saw Caylee getting on a plane. That turned out not to be true. Yes to polygraphs. Yes to any favorable information about Casey. I mean, did they just hand over the case to the defense, Midwin?
Absolutely not. Look here, defense attorneys are entitled to this kind of information. It's discovery, and they're entitled to exculpatory evidence, which is evidence that points to the fact that perhaps someone else did it, or this person who is being charged with the crime is not the person who did it. And it doesn't mean that he's handing the case over to the defense. What he's doing is just ensuring that they get a fair shake at the same evidence that the prosecutors have. Remember, this judge does not want to be reversed later on down the line either.
Joey Jackson, you know, the prosecution was saying, hey, she is not currently charged with murder or manslaughter. We do not have an obligation to give her all this information that goes way beyond what she's charged with now, which is a child neglect and fraud charges, and hand over essentially what could be a murder case down the road.
No, I understand that, but Midwin is absolutely right on point here. The reality is, Jane, is that an indictment is imminent, and what you have to do is you have to really, if you're the judge, to determine whether or not it makes sense to turn this information over now. The defense is entitled to examine the evidence, evaluate the evidence, and having done so, to put up the best defense they possibly can. Lastly, Jane, on the issue of the forensic examination, there's one or two ways the defense can attack this. One way, which I don't think will work in this case, is to simply get up there and to try to destroy all the testing that their expert did. What the defense is doing in this case is asking for an independent examination, which I think will help greatly in the defense of Caylee.
And I want to find out how the defense can afford all this. I mean, experts and consultants and all sorts of tests. I don't know. It adds up. It adds up very quickly.
And,
it
does add up.
Perhaps we'll find out how they're bankrolling all this. The phone lines lighting up like a Christmas tree. Eileen, New Jersey, your question, ma'am.
Yes, hi. It's just one question, and I'm wondering, can you overdose on chloroform?
All right, let's go to Kobe, Lawrence Kovalinski, the forensic scientist. Can you overdose on chloroform?
Without a doubt. Chloroform at levels of about 10,000 parts per million is highly toxic. And in fact, it was normally used for anesthesia, but that's got to be very carefully administered. And if you overdo it, it is fatal. And there's no doubt about that. It's a toxic chemical, and that's why the public should not have access to it.
Biggest mistake was not calling you guys right off the bat. I understand all of that. It's the biggest slap in the face, and I did that to myself. But the worst of all, I've done this to my daughter by allowing her to still be with someone else. My mom flat out told me yesterday she will never be able to forgive me, and I even told her I'm never going to be able to forgive myself. Every day I've been beating myself up about this. Every single day.
Right.
Not knowing where to go, what to do, running in circles, literally. Because it's all I can do at this point.
I'm Jane Velez-Mitchell in for Nancy Grace. EquiSearch back in Orlando, desperately looking for little Caylee Anthony now that the storms there have subsided. We're going to go straight out to Tim Miller, head of EquiSearch. How many people do you have there, Tim? Where are they? What are they doing tonight?
Well, Jane, it's, good to be back. But, it's been kind of disappointing. It looks like we brought the rain back with us. It's rained the last few days. Conditions aren't where we need them to be just yet, but I haven't really been out there to look. Today I've been in meetings the entire day, a lot longer than I anticipated.
Let me jump in and ask you this question about the Orlando airport area. I remember flying in there years ago, and it struck me how wooded that area is. It's like you're driving out of the airport, miles and miles of just wood. It's going to be impossible, I would think, to search through that. Why not get cadaver dogs and just let them loose and see what they come up with?
Well, don't we wish it was that easy? None of us would be out here. We've actually located human remains several times after cadaver dogs have cleared it, so we don't use just any one resource. I think that's why our success is where it is. We bring in every resource we can and research and research and research until we know an area is cleared. And I mean, there's a lot of woods, but let's face it, nobody's going to carry anything out a quarter mile, a half mile into a wooded area where it's very, very hard to walk.
That's a good point. In other words,
it's an area that somebody can drive out to, not be seen, possibly spend some time out there and go ahead and do a dump. And we got to remember this is a very, very small child in a very, very big area. And again, I think there's a lot of strength in numbers. And there's a lot of resources we have. There's a lot of people just sitting on the edge of their chair waiting to get going back on this search. But tomorrow it's not going to start. We've got to be a little bit better organized than we are tomorrow, so we're not going to waste these resources. But the search is going to go on, and I still support the Anthonys in hoping that Caylee's alive out there. But we're going to do everything we can do in case she's not, to see if we can get her located.